Not everyone knows what truly happens when a loyal man is betrayed. He doesn't get angry, doesn't seek revenge, he changes. His silence isn't just withdrawal, it's the closing of a world that was once full of love, trust, and devotion. And if you ever thought you could hurt him and then come back as if nothing happened, you were wrong. This video will show you, once a loyal man chooses to walk away, what you lose isn't just him, it's the best part of love that ever existed. 1. Loyalty is not a weakness, it's a silent promise. Loyalty is not a weakness, it is a silent promise, not signed, not sworn, but proven through small, repeated actions every single day. Jake understood this. He didn't need to say, "I love you," every hour. It was enough that the lunch he prepared was always the way she liked it, always placed on the table, even when he had just finished a long night shift at the mechanical plant. To Jake, repetition wasn't boring. It was loyalty measured in perseverance. But all of that collapsed in seconds when he read messages he never imagined he'd have to see. No yelling, no accusations, just something breaking inside him. Not his heart, but the pillar of belief he had lived by for years. Jake wasn't hurt because he lost a wife. He was hurt because he realized his loyalty had been held alone, while the other person treated it as a mere option. He had once believed loyalty was a rope both people held to keep a relationship secure. Now he saw the other hand had let go long ago, and he had been pulling it alone unconsciously. 2. When a loyal man is betrayed, what he loses is not just love, but his entire belief system. Jake didn't scream. He didn't demand answers. He didn't search for reasons. He just sat down, stared into empty space, as if trying to hear the sound of something collapsing within. For a loyal man, betrayal isn't simply losing someone, it's losing the entire compass that guided his life. Jake had believed that if he lived kindly, loved sincerely, and was always present when needed, that would be enough to sustain a relationship. But then he realized the rules he believed governed love sometimes meant nothing to someone who didn't share those same beliefs. The betrayal didn't just take love away, it shook the very foundation he had built himself upon. And so, Jake's silence wasn't emptiness. It was the place where old beliefs crumbled, and a man was left sitting alone, asking himself, if the best part of me still wasn't worth keeping, should I even keep believing in those things anymore? That is the pain of a soul that didn't just lose a person, but lost direction. 3. A loyal man doesn't retreat out of hatred, but because he needs time to heal himself. Jake didn't vanish from the world. He still went to work, still greeted neighbors, still answered small talk with a thin smile like paper. But those who knew him could feel it. Something in him had dimmed. Not his light, but his softness. Jake no longer hugged tightly when saying goodbye, no longer asked deeply personal questions. He seemed to keep an invisible distance from everyone, even himself. On the outside there was silence, but on the inside there was a quiet courtroom, where he questioned whether his trust had been too naive, whether forgiving too often had taught others he couldn't feel pain. He wasn't angry, he didn't blame. He just wanted to stop hoping, because hope had once kept him believing in promises that were eventually abandoned. Loyal men don't pull away to punish anyone. They retreat because they need to heal, in silence, without bothering anyone, and with no certainty that they'll ever be able to open up again the way they once did. 4. And then, if one day he leaves, you won't hear a slamming door, only an emptiness no one else can fill. Jake didn't leave like someone who had been hurt. He left like someone who had gone to the end of love and realized there was nothing left to hold on to. No shouting, no crashing furniture, just the sound of an old suitcase zipper and the soft click of keys placed on the wooden table. The letter he left wasn't long, but enough to leave anyone speechless. I don't regret what I gave. I only regret that it wasn't met with truth. Someone once said, walking away in silence is the most painful way to end a relationship. But for Jake, it was the only choice left to preserve his dignity. He didn't need anyone's pity. He just needed to know that he had lived rightly, loved truly, and kept his promise in silence for years. Sometimes nobility doesn't lie in forgiveness, but in the way one walks away, without looking back, without resentment, quietly leaving behind a place that was once his whole world, but now is only an empty room with no echo of love left. 5. Even if he forgives, he will never be the same again. Forgiveness is not always a new beginning. Sometimes it's just a quiet period to close a chapter that's already torn. Jake might smile again, might talk again, might even begin another relationship. But deep in his eyes there will always be a space, invisible yet felt by anyone attentive. He's no longer the man who easily trusts from the first conversation. No longer the one who sends long texts just to remind you to bring your jacket. He has learned to love with clarity, not just with his heart. Because now, for Jake, love is no longer a place to give everything, but a place to choose carefully, to hold some part of himself back, in case the other person doesn't know how to protect it. Forgiveness has happened, but the crack in trust, even when patched, leaves a scar. And that scar becomes a fence. Not to keep others out, but to remind himself that loyalty is a rare gift, never to be given to those who don't cherish it. 6. Never trade loyalty for short-term satisfaction. The price you pay is permanent loss. There are people like Jake, quiet, unassuming, but when they love with everything they have. They don't set conditions, don't ask for repayment. They only hope for honesty and a steady presence. But those who love with their whole hearts are often the easiest to wound, because they keep nothing back for themselves. When you hurt someone like that, you don't just lose a relationship, you lose the best version of them. The one who once believed in you, who patiently listened, who silently forgave your small mistakes because their love was greater than any anger. After the betrayal, even if they stay, you'll see they're different. No more bright eyes when you walk into the room. No more small gestures filled with affection. You still have them in your life, but not the way they used to be. And the most painful part is, you can't rewind time to make it right. Because some losses, once they happen, are permanent. Don't trade the loyalty of a rare soul just to satisfy a fleeting temptation. Because by the time you realize it, they will have already walked away, carrying with them the best part you ever had. 7. If you have a loyal person in your life, don't wait until they walk away to realize their worth. Loyalty is never something given randomly. It doesn't come from words, but is proven through quiet, repeated acts, like remembering you take your coffee without sugar, or always giving up the last piece of cake without saying a word. Loyal people don't love by mood, don't come and go with passing feelings. They stay when you're weak, and they believe in you when you doubt yourself. But because they don't show off, don't complain, many take them for granted until they walk away. And in that moment you'll realize not everyone will wait for you to change. Not everyone will love you quietly like that again. Loyalty is a gift that's given only once, and if lost, you can't buy it back with apologies or belated gestures. If you have someone like that in your life, be grateful. Hold on to them with sincerity, before all you have left is a memory of someone who once loved you more than they loved themselves. Conclusion. In the end, when a loyal man walks away, he doesn't leave noise behind, but a silence no one else can fill. He doesn't leave to hurt you, but to preserve the good that remains within himself. Because sometimes to love is not to stay, but to know when to leave, when loyalty is no longer respected. And if someone like that once walked through your life, don't just mourn their absence. Ask yourself, were you truly worthy of their staying? Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.